Kelly Lou Dennis and I have been friends for many years, meeting on set at one of my first studio locations all the way back in 2010. A Bay Area native, Kelly eventually moved to Los Angeles to pursue filmmaking more directly, and so it was with great excitement and enthusiasm that we reconnected on the red carpet at the San Jose International Short Film Festival in 2024. Kelly invited me to watch her short film, Good Girls Get Fed, a bloody psychological thriller that takes a hard look at the extreme measures people are willing to take to ensure their own survival. The film was directed by Kelly, but she was also one of the main characters, which provided unique challenges and the uncommon opportunity to work with a co-director. Kelly graciously sat down with me to discuss her process as a director and the journey she has taken to pursue her passions, grow her career, and find herself as a filmmaker. And with that, please enjoy the show.
You know, it's so disturbing. I get a lot of spam calls and texts, like everybody.
Yeah.
But I got one, I think I'd been in the Bay for 4 days.
Okay.
This trip. And I get one, and I think it was the day after we went to San Francisco too. And we were in the fast track a little bit, but it wasn't during like hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And I get a scam text about fast track fee that I have to pay. And I knew it was a scam, but how terrifying that they know that I'm in the Bay and they knew that I was in fast track in the lanes.
Yeah, that's...
Because I don't get them when I'm in LA.
The sophistication is a little ridiculous at this
horrifying.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit. Well, I'll give us a half-assed proper intro here. Welcome back to The Shortcut. Thank you for joining us. My guest is Kelly Lou Dennis, filmmaker extraordinaire. So I did get to see your short film, but this show isn't about any specific project. I think the last time I did this on these same couches with another young filmmaker. We did talk a bit about her project, but I think my goal here is to expose people to the process of filmmaking, especially indie filmmaking. I think that's why I call it The Shortcut, because there really aren't any, shortcuts.
No.
So let's talk for a minute about about who you are actually, and then we'll jump into your film for a little bit and we'll go from there.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about who you are as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I started as a writer and an actor, and that's what I did for a very long time. And I always was given the question, okay, you have to pick one. Which one, gun to your head, what would you pick? And the answer is just I don't have an answer. You know, I was writing stories since I was a child. I hand wrote my first novel in the 5th grade in cursive in a notebook, oh my God. And acting also was something that I was constantly doing, and the two of them just grew up side by side. And mostly it was like writing fiction stories and acting in theater, but once I got to college and I discovered the language of film, that's when I really fell in love. And same thing with the language of screenwriting.
Yeah.
Because for acting for the film, acting for the camera, you know, the camera can be right here looking at you. It's like a foot away from your face. And you can't hide anything. You know, it's not about having to project to the back of the audience or anything.
Yeah.
It's just about being honest, and it's not even really like you have to fight to let things out, because it's going to catch a lot.
It's a lot more subtle than theater.
Yes, yes. Which I love theater, but I just fell in love with film acting, TV acting, and then for screenwriting, I like how simple it is. You literally write what you see and write what you hear, and that's it.
Yeah.
Very simple. So I fell in love with the two of them, but I'm very visual, and I can't write a story unless I can see the place. There's a pilot that I wrote. It's set in a world that I had to kind of make up, and I had like diagrams of cruise ships and hotels and all sorts of things that I had to put together until I could figure out, okay, now I can see the physical space, which means now I can write the thing. And so I think that's kind of how directing came to be. And just as a way to start making things in the beginning, when you have no resources, it's like, well, it's hard enough to bring on a camera person, so I guess for this short little thing, this little project, I guess I'll direct it, we'll figure it out. And I kept being drawn back to that. And so this film that I just screened at San Jose, that was my first time solo directing without a co-director, without, trusting my first AD to be my, second eyes, or my cameraman to be my second eyes, or whatever. This was the first time it was like, this is my vision, this is what I want to set out to accomplish. And that's through major collaboration, of course, but actually having a clear vision. Good Girls Get Fed was the first time for me.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd like to. I was mentioning last night, we were talking. One of the friends was actually had been in film. Has done a lot of film work, but he was talking about collaboration. I said, yeah, film is probably, for lack of any other example, the most collaborative art form you have. I'd agree. Virtually impossible to make a film without collaborating with multiple people. And it's a very different world than painting or sculpting or so many other types of filmmaking. And in this case, you were also one of the stars, or the star, depending on how you put that. How did that work? Because I have yet to ever feature myself in a film I've directed. And I don't think I'll probably ever do much more than, I think when I was younger, of course, that was always like, I also want to be the star, but never did any of those projects.
Sure.
But anyway, at this point, I don't know that I like acting, but it's not a pursuit for me, and I don't think I will ever see much more than a cameo of myself in a film. So how did that process work? I guess we'll jump right into your film here. How did that process work this time?
Sure. I had, on those times where I had a co-director, or where I was the director, but really I was I didn't have confidence in myself, so I was always going to the first AD, going to the DP. I don't know, what do you think? Getting their opinion. On those times, I often was acting as well, and so I had opportunities to try it out with different folks as kind of like my partner in a sense. And that's why the co-directing thing made the most sense at the time. But this time I was very lucky because I had the right people attached. The simple answer is having the right team. And strong communication. So I had two people on board who I was very close to. One of them has been helping me with my self-tapes for 9 years now. And I have other actor friends who come and ask this person to do their tapes with him as well. So he has just a great way with actors and with notes, and creatively we're so aligned. So we have the same taste. And we had a ton of meetings leading up to the shoot where we talked about every scene, but not just every scene, every character. We took turns. Okay, where are they coming from? Where are they going? He was asking questions that I had never even considered, so that he could understand what I was looking for in each character in each scene, but not just what I was looking for, but why. So that when we're on set and we're shooting something and I'm, in an emotional state or a physical state where it's like, if we don't have to ask Kelly this question, maybe from all of our discussions and knowing why I want things a certain way, he would be able to make a call on the spot without checking with me in certain circumstances, and I trusted him to do that. So Aaron Krimitz was majorly helpful. Definitely will need to continue working with him in that capacity. And he learned all my shots as well. So that was key, just like a second eye.
Did you find yourself at the end of each day, doing dailies, being like, "Ooh, we've got to totally reshoot that scene"?
No, thank God. And so he was like the acting, creative side of my brain, whereas I brought on a friend of mine who is a director. They've done shorts before. Most importantly, they've been in charge on a set before, whereas Aaron hadn't. So this person, Beck Williams, they learned all of my shots as well. They knew what shots I wanted and why I wanted those shots. So the two of them together were able to kind of be both halves of my brain when I was, unavailable. And also the whole crew knew they could talk to this person who has been on set before, who knows the language when I wasn't available. But that being said, it was great because I think there were probably 2 shots in the whole thing that I didn't personally get to see the frame on before we rolled the final frame. The final setup So even when I was in a weird position or whatever as the actor, I'd be laying this way and they're bringing me the the monitor, and I can still check it and make final adjustments before we started rolling. So that was our whole process. And I would say with Aaron, it was great because I could come up from a take and I would look at him and I'd be like, I was not feeling that one. I think we need to go again. And he would tell me, no, I think you're going to like it. We can move on.
Okay.
And
that sounds like it
lo and
worked out.
behold, he was right. I didn't have to go and watch playback. We could save that time. And when I was looking at the dailies, we had what we needed. So
how did that work with regards to being in a lot of that film? You're in a very heightened state of emotion, right? Whether it's tense or angry or rage or fear.
Yeah.
How did that work with also being like, okay, are we ready to go? Or, I'm in this awkward position. I'm going to do this thing. Show me that, there's a very technical side of directing that has to go into that. And I feel that can be difficult when you're in an anxious or whatever mood. Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, I'm very musically inspired. So I found this, for a while I stepped away from using music as part of my prep for acting because, when we're green, it's like, oh, listen to this song and it makes me feel sad. Now I can do the sad scene. That's not the way that works for me. But I stepped away from it and then I came back to it a few years ago, using it in a different way rather than trying to elicit a certain emotion. It's like it can create an atmosphere and a world for me. So, for example, there's one song that I used for a completely different project, and when I listen to it, I feel like I don't have anybody in the world. It's truly just me, and I'm on my own. Now, I, Kelly, have great relationships with friends and great relationships with my family. I'm very fortunate to have that. But I could listen to this song and I really could believe in that moment that I don't have anyone in the world. Okay. So I did find a song that worked really well for this character and this world and this scenario. And I used that a lot when working on the script. And it got to the point where on set I could just listen to 12 to 15 seconds of that song and it would put me back in that place of being I don't remember what was specifically. There was a lot of desperation, but just feeling empty, feeling cold, feeling like, there is no world bigger than this room. Yeah. So that was incredibly helpful and saved a lot of time. Yeah.
How did you come up with this story? This is, I've been wondering about that. I think we talked briefly about it, but it's really interesting. It's very one of those. I like the twists, that you come across.
Thank you.
And I know you've talked about wanting to, or you're pursuing, an expansion of this into a feature. Where did this come from?
I was in this acting class with, some other talented people, but there were just these two gals in my class who were just so good. Kayla Klein and Sarah Ribitaro, and I remember sitting in class one day and watching them do their scenes and thinking, man, they're so good, but we would never be cast in the same thing together because, I'm mixed race and they're white, but still, as far as skin tone, really similar. Body shape, really similar. Brunette hair, really similar.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I approached them anyway, like, I would love to do a project with you guys. And they at first were concerned that they were not writers, but when you talk about story, when you talk about character, if you have at least one person who knows story structure and can cram it into a structure that makes sense, then that's I would argue all you need.
Yeah, a writer's room I think is very simple. It doesn't I work with a lot of people often on trying to put together different scripts and projects, but typically it ends up being one person is going back and doing the bulk of the writing, we're brainstorming together and then maybe taking a look at this scene, I read through it last night and I was thinking, how about this and this and this. It doesn't have to be like, all right, you write that paragraph, then you write that paragraph.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
Exactly. You break the story together. That's totally fine. So it started initially as like super casual. We would hang out for like half of a couple hours and then work on it for 30 minutes. But it'd be like, it was just like an entertaining thing to do.
Yeah.
And we figured, well, what if we dove into the point of it is that we all look the same.
Yeah.
The same. But what if that was the point and we started diving into that and we started since I said it was hangout / working.
Yeah.
So during the hangout phase, at one point we were sharing different stories of kind of like dating woes, and it was very lighthearted, and we were laughing and stuff, and one of us started sharing this story about a date where she wanted to be on the date. She liked the guy well enough. He invited her back to his place. She went back to his place, but then there was a certain point when things changed and she didn't want to be there anymore, and she didn't want to progress anymore. But and it's not like he was blocking the door or anything like that, but she didn't know how to really get herself out of it. She didn't feel like she had permission to just be like, hey, I'm actually not feeling this anymore, I want to leave. That sounds super easy and obvious from the outside. But exactly, on paper. But when you're in it, it's just different, especially for young women. And after she told that story, we're hanging out. It's not meant to be like a downer situation. So she's like, I didn't see him again. And we just kind of found ourselves not laughing. The other two were not laughing because we realized we had similar stories. Yeah. And we started talking about all these other situations and scenarios and comments people had made where, when we're hearing our friend talk about her experience, we're getting pissed off. Like, that is not right. I want to stand up for you. I want to go back in time and stand up for you, But when it's for ourselves, I think a lot of the times we put that blame on ourselves. Like, well, in the date, well, I agreed to come here. Well, I agreed to this. I agreed to that. It's hard to find that
very specific break point where it's no longer your fault.
To fight for yourself. And so that's kind of where the concept of this all came from. Is there's two different challenges in the short film, and that these women are forced to go through.
Well, there's a third, if you will, at the end, isn't there? It's like it starts the third challenge or something like that.
I wouldn't say that's a challenge. That's them breaking into something new,
Fair
I
enough.
guess.
Yeah.
But there's two challenges that are forced upon them, and they all have to participate in them. And both of them are pulled from. They're both making strong commentary. For example, the second one, it literally says date night on the screen. Yeah. And we were talking about, as we started getting into this, well, what are the expectations on a first date, second date, third date? How does the porn industry, how does that come into play with day-to-day relationships with people, and really just expectations, societal expectations, especially on women, but people of all genders. So that's really where the story was born from.
It was very evocative, I think is a term I definitely would ascribe to it. And so you're saying it kind of started as mechanics, right? It was like, well, what would the three of us be in a film about? Like, if we all are that similar, and then turned into thriller from there. Did you know you wanted to do a thriller initially, or is it really just part of the evolution of that writing room?
I think we knew it was going to be in some, at least heavy drama. Okay. I didn't know that it would become something that now people classify as horror. And, because to me at the beginning, it's like, well, horror is jump scares and blood. Yeah. But I think there's a certain way of telling story that I am not planning on stopping anytime soon. That's just very unapologetic. It's just like, look, this is what it is. Look at it.
Yeah. Well, and I think going back to what you were saying about how you would all have these stories together, I would call it thriller, not horror. I think horror for me, again, is blood and guts and jump scares and a fear that what's the word I was using? An irrational fear. Whereas your story was very much about rational fears, and in an unexpected setting. But I think there's a level of reality to that and possibility to that, and we know there are serial killers out there, and we know that there are serial killers who pick the same looks and themes when they do their killing. So it felt very possible, which is I think more unnerving to me than anything. I love horror partly because for me it's very difficult to be actually afraid of things in horror. I do like the jump scares. It's I still get spooked by jump scares, but like I was watching through the Aliens movies again, and they're just so ridiculous when you really think about what's happening the whole time. And I'm like, none of this scares me anymore. But stuff like that is, and I'm not a woman, but it still scares me. The concept of you could wake up in a state like that. You could be kidnapped and sealed in a basement, and
people are.
It happens. We find it all the time, and it's very unfortunate. But yeah, I really glad that you went there, because another thing I was going to mention is it's not what I would consider preachy, and I think some people can see that sometimes in a story like that. But I think you did a really good job of just presenting the situation as a situation and as something that as I mentioned, it's very realistic.
Thank you.
And I'm really hoping that we get to see more of that. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
The path to feature, the path to taking something that is proof of concept and turning it into something that someone else is willing to put money behind.
Right.
Where are you with that right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're deep in the throes of it. I think the thing is there is no clear path, there is no one way. I would say, I was even having a discussion with film friends recently, and someone was wondering if they should do a proof of concept for something, or if they should just put the funds they already have towards, starting development on the feature. Like, which route do you go? And I think the reason that, initially this started as something fun, and then we wrote the script, and then it was like, well, we really like this, let's make the short. Okay, well, let's make the short. I mean, our film is rather long for a short.
It's about 20 minutes?
It's 20 and a half, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm very grateful for the successes that we have had at festivals, despite the length of it. But, it wasn't meant to be, well, this is how we'll get the best odds at festivals if we keep it under this many minutes. It just kind of became what it was, what it needed to be. And I'm glad we have this proof of concept, because I don't have anything that's like, this is my style of directing.
Right.
So I think that's been very helpful to have when speaking to people. Sorry.
I was going to say, what have you, you've directed other things before, but you don't feel like you have a style specific to you?
Yeah, because it was me co-directing, or one of those situations, my co-director handled the crew and everything camera, and I handled the casting and the actors and the wardrobe and whatever.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't, I wouldn't take that short and be like, this is what my work looks like.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I guess I didn't really know what my work looks like until directing this piece.
Okay.
So having that proof has been important for people to understand, okay, it'll just be an expanded version of this, more or less.
Would you, and I think this comes up with everything I've looked at expanding or worked on with somebody that went to, went to feature length or things like that. If you got people behind it, if you were able to get the funding for it, would you, I'm assuming you'd want to direct it?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you feel confident taking this and saying, this is my directing style, here's my proof of concept, this is what you'll get. You'll get an expanded version of this. Right. Yeah.
So you can see where there's areas where more money can make X, Y, Z happen a little bit more polished, or whatever. But conceptually, this is what you'll get, and you can see tendencies.
Would you take the short you have and it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, but would you? I think for the kind of story, in my view, I would rather see a longer version of the film you've already done, like an expanded, there are 3 or 4 challenges and there's a little more mystery from the beginning, but or were you thinking that you guys are going to take it from the end and follow through and go forward from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, because I did write the feature script on my own.
Okay.
Granted permissions from the other 2 writers on the short.
Okay.
But yeah, I wrote the feature, and there is a lot more time spent in those rooms than like with the short. It starts at a certain point, but the feature starts earlier than that. So you kind of see how characters become how they are, and how this scenario wears people down and breaks them and makes them into essentially a different person.
Yeah.
So I do spend a lot of time on that, and that has been my focus. I think thematically things are a little bit different for the feature as well, which, I do want to make commentary on what the ending twist is, which is still in there, of course. But for me, my main focus for the feature is talking about how you're supposed to be, how you're expected to be a man, how you're supposed to be a woman.
Okay.
You have these 2 characters, the first woman who is brought there in the very beginning, and you have the guy who's keeping her there.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear, there's nothing about Stockholm Syndrome. That is not at all what this is. But, she has learned to survive in the world. She works with finance guys, and, she's in this world where she's one of the few females.
Yeah.
and she's learned to shut down her emotions, comments that are said about other women or about herself. She's learned to like not really react, not have an emotion about it,
Yeah.
maybe laugh things off. She's portraying more masculine, traditionally masculine tendencies. She's, competitive, aggressive, whereas the man who's kidnapped her, he was just dumped in a very humiliating way by his fiancée because he cries too much, because he's emotional, because he's not pushing for the promotions like his coworkers are, and he's just kind of happy with his life. So he's exhibiting more feminine, traditionally feminine traits.
Sure.
And I think the two of them find something in each other where it's like, society doesn't accept you. Society rejects you because you are not,
I can
acting how
identify
you're
with that a
supposed
little
to.
bit. I cry a lot more than I think other people think I should. But I enjoy a good cry. I enjoy feeling the emotions of life, and at the same time, I totally understand that's well put. Those are expectations put upon us as men and women in very, very different ways, and it can be feel like you're trapped in a way.
Yes.
That's good. So did you run that, because sounds like there's more of the man or the male character in this feature.
Yes.
Did you send this to, because I've been working on a few things recently where some of the suggestions from the female producer that I have been trying to pitch some of this to is like, did you check with like the people this is about? And, one time it was a short story about a Indian woman. It's about actually not about an Indian woman. It's about there's a woman or two wives, or two women are getting married, and it's at an Indian wedding, but the non-Indian bride ends up meeting up with the estranged father of the Indian bride in the bathroom, and they have this whole little thing. That's what the whole short's about.
Yeah.
But I submitted it, and the producer was like, well, okay, so like, got to be careful about this. Like, did you talk to some Indian people about this? And I was like, whoa, this was written by an Indian woman, and she's the one directing it. She was like, oh, okay, you're fine. But it's just one of like. So, was there a version? But for the other, one of the ones that let me back that up. One of the ones I'm writing is a take on another friend of mine's short film, which was a 48-hour film festival short. It was not. It's a 48-hour film. It was not as well executed as a film can be executed. It was done in 48 hours.
Yeah.
But I said, this concept's great, and I really like what happens in here. And it's about three women who are really good friends, and they have this pact to like get pregnant together, and stuff goes awry, and they end up in a fight and breaking apart, and then coming back together. And it was one of those where I said, of course, the whole way through, I'm like, well, let me go talk to a couple of my friends who, have been in these situations before, to make sure that I'm not, as a man, being like, this is great, everything's fine, and have people be like, that's so unrealistic, or have you found yourself doing that with your script? Not, for lack of a better term, checking with guys to see what they think of the guy character or anything like that.
Definitely. I mean, I've mentioned Aaron Krimis before, and we work closely together on a lot of things. I'm a very external processor, so a lot of the times I won't realize I feel a certain way or what the answer to something is until I'm trying to explain it out loud, and then it's like, never mind, got the answer. I'm good. So, I do share a lot with him, and we chat. I have chatted with a number of men who, do share these feelings or these hesitations, I guess, as far as like really allowing themselves to be themselves, and how that's been influenced from childhood, from school, even in work. But also, I thought it was very interesting sending out the first draft to all sorts of different people and seeing what responses I got and where I would get notes and where I wouldn't get notes. So it has, this guy's character has been left alone. So I'll take that as a win.
Vetted thoroughly with other guys, and at the same time, I think there's only so much of that you can do. It has to be your story, and B, you can send it to 50 different people for feedback and get 50 different types of feedback
100%.
on it. Last night when I was showing this short film to my friends, two of them were just like, two of the guys were just like, bounce chicken wow, is this a porn? Is it? And they were just making like the dumbest comments all the way through. The two women were like, I mean, this isn't good. I mean, the cinematography is good, but like, what is the point of this? And I'm not feeling this. And then the one filmmaker, the guy who had a filmmaking background, was very technical about like, well, the music is not, it's all very like, it's just kind of flat and blah blah blah. And I was just like, okay, this is all very different types of feedback. And he thought, well, there's a lot you could do here to kind of fix this. The two women were like, don't spend too much time on it. There's not much you can do to fix this.
Yeah.
The two other guys were like, we didn't even get to see boobs. And I was just like, oh God, like this is all across the board.
Well, I mean, I think something that's really, there's a million reasons why somebody has to have a very clear vision.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the director, but someone has to have a very clear vision. And that person, I am a big believer in getting as many opinions as possible. Is that more of a headache? Totally, but it's worth it, know? And I was sick in the head, and I, for one of our most numerous crowdfunding levels, the one that we got the most pledges of this level, I didn't know that would be the most numerous, but it was. Not a super high one either, so I knew plenty of people would get this prize, if you will.
Yeah.
And that was that I would send the rough cut to all of them, and I would be open to their notes. And this is, you got to imagine, no color, no music, that's, it's just a picture look with plenty of things that are missing and don't make sense to, probably over half of our pledgers were not film people.
Yeah.
And so my team was like, okay, brace yourself. Just, I don't know why you did this, but here we go. And I got great feedback from filmmakers and editors. I got great feedback from actors, and I got great feedback from non-film folks.
Yeah.
Those often had to be translated a little bit more. But at the end of the day, if everyone is circling in and making comments about one scene or one character or one something, then perhaps the things they're suggesting are not exactly what was bothering them. Perhaps it was, but perhaps it wasn't. But perhaps there's something that everyone is really trying to figure out what the problem is, and something needs to be looked at there.
Yeah.
And I will say that, two of the best notes I got out of that session with the rough cut were from non-film folks.
Oh, very cool. Very
cool. But I say that to say, like, having a really strong vision and then getting as much feedback as you can is really key, because then you can really consider everything. And sometimes you want to take a note, but it's not right. It's not quite in line with the vision. Or sometimes you really hate a note and you realize, oh, dang it, that is absolutely what it needs. Oh,
you're right. They're all right.
You're right. This is inconvenient for me. But I think then you can get to something, as long as, again, there's a clear vision that is going to translate and to make sense and speak to as many people as possible. Yeah. It won't ever be everybody, but
no. I think that's an important part of indie filmmaking, is understanding that you have to. I mean, unless you're really like trying the Oscar circuit or the whatever, like, that this has got to be your film. And we go back to that as your vision, your film, and at the end of the day, you have to be happy with it before you can put it out to everyone else. And if no one's happy with it, I think, our job in some capacity, in large capacity, is to make something palatable to an audience. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think it starts with you as the audience.
Yeah. You have to make what you want to see rather than make what you think other people want to see, because that's the stuff that's going to fall flat. If someone leaves pissed off after watching your film and hating it, and some people leave loving it, that's the place to be. If people leave and they're like,
it was a film.
Fine.
Yeah.
I won't remember it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's when you're dead in the water,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, so let's change gears slightly. Do you consider yourself kind of a thriller or horror gal? Is that like your penchant in filmmaking, or is it just happens to be where this last one went?
Yeah, I mean, I think the genre space is very, very in line with the way that I tell story, the way I, have thoughts on societal constructs. That sounds so obnoxiously bougie, but or like snobby or something. But I just mean like, like when I watched Poor Things earlier this year. I won't spoil anything, but I was fascinated with how much I was in line with the main character, in how she comes from a very childlike, naive, inexperienced perspective. And she's looking at the world, she's looking at our society, she's looking at how we treat each other, and often being like, why though? Why is it that way? And, I feel that way about a lot of things. For example, like what we were saying earlier about why is it that so many young women don't realize that they're allowed to change their consent or change their mind.
Yeah.
Why can't they, I've been through situations like that, and I look back on it later like, Kelly, stupid, just say, actually, I'm going to go. But instead, there's some sort of,
There's a transactional level that feels, or a contractual almost, where you're like, I've been in this like verbal contract, so I'm supposed to like fulfill the rest of that, aren't I, or something?
Right.
And I think we see a lot of examples of that in life that can influence it. It's very easy to feel like you don't want to go against the grain or something. And I mean, I haven't been in that situation myself for the most part. I've never, I don't do a lot of dating, but I have not been on a date where I've been like, how do I get out of here?
Yeah.
Like, so I can't really speak to it, but I think for other parts of my life, I think that's something that's common, is we get used to going with the flow, and then you're like, it just feels uncomfortable to go against it, and that sounds awful. But yeah, sorry, back to your point.
Well, there's that dangerous phrase, that's just the way things are.
Yeah.
We just do things that way. It just is.
Yeah. And
But
why don't we question that?
Exactly. So, regarding genre of storytelling, I think I love psychological thriller. This film, Good Girls Get Fed, has been called a psychological horror, which I'll take that. But I think that a level of darkness is always going to be in my work in some capacity. Now, I mean, I've played around with dark comedy, totally, but I think going into thriller and horror spaces as far as telling stories, it appeals to me because there's a lot of things that I want to say, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. I just want to brutally be like, this is the thing that I'm upset about. Why are we not talking about it?
Yeah.
And I think genre tends to make a good home for that. Plus, like, I have a very bloody slasher that I want to write next, but I also have a sci-fi love story that I want to write. So I think...
Is it a dark sci-fi love story?
It's sad.
Okay.
It's sad. I don't know if the ending's happy. It's probably not, knowing me. But, I think you can create these metaphors for real life scenarios or societal constructs, things like that. That's why you have monsters in horror films, right?
Yeah.
They represent something. You have like the Babadook, and the monster is cancer, or it's you are able to create something that is more universally understood, and you get to have fun with it and make it this nasty creature, this crazy world, or whatever the scenario is, aliens invading. But like even zombie films, I love zombie stories because there's so much commentary.
Yeah.
And I think on top of it too, I'm fascinated by, like, Lost was the first one that grabbed me.
Oh, good Lord.
Not Lost as an entire, but the concept of just taking a bunch of people who in real life would have nothing ever to do with each other.
Yeah.
But you force them together, that you give them a shared emergency, and then it strips us away from all of the, hi, I'm Kelly, how are you? All the niceties, all the fluff, all the whatever, all the bullshit. Can I say bullshit?
Yeah, you're good.
But you get to just be people together, and you just skip all the crap.
Yeah.
So that to me always appeals in stories as well. So perhaps there's like a survival thriller or something, but there will be sharp edges to whatever I put out, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about career-wise. We'll broaden it up a little. This is your career? This is all you do for a living as a filmmaker?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you? I'm sure plenty of people in the audience are like, how? Because a lot of us, I do it for a living. I don't make a lot of money. But it is, I feel like a lot of the people I work with who aren't a technical person, gaffer, it's a little bit easier to be like, yeah, I gaff for a living. I'm a lighting tech. I get on corporate feature, whatever, I don't care. Same thing with a lot of the other technical folks, even to the point of DPs and camera ops. But for directors and producers, it's a difficult world to say, yes, this is the only thing I do for a living.
Yeah.
Writers and actors.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point?
I think it's something that early on, if you know that you have to do one of these things, you can't stop going after a career in directing. You can't stop writing. You can't stop acting, and you have to go for it.
Yeah.
Because first of all, if you can do anything else, maybe do anything else. But real talk, it's not a nice industry. It is a lot of pain. It is a lot of disappointment. Things take forever, and you don't make a lot of money for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So if you can do anything else, then do something else that can also make you happy. But like for me, I I could not stop. It's just not possible. It will always be that way. I am certain, without a shadow of a doubt. So once I realized that, then I started thinking about, okay, well, what way am I going to make money in the meantime? What is something?
Keep going. So I'm just going to check the audio.
Sure. I am talking here. I'm talking.
No, you can just keep talking to me. I just put the headphones on for a second. We'll just keep going. 'Cause I noticed it's like
bouncing.
Slightly touching there. And I'm like, let's just make sure.
Yes.
But because no, you're good. So I'm sorry. I just totally interrupted you.
You're good. I would say if you know without a shadow of doubt that you have to go after one of these things, directing, acting, writing, whatever, think about what you can do on the side that will be flexible enough in the meantime. And I don't think you can put like, well, I'm going to do this for 5 years and then I will be making enough money. You don't know.
15 here.
15. Oh, 5 was a way low number. So just think long term, what can I be doing? So some people go into restaurants. That's what I did for a while because it's super flexible, or people will bartend because you can request shifts off and things, especially depending the market you're in LA. Everyone knows that everyone in a restaurant is a musician or working in film, so you cover each other's shifts and whatever. Some people will get a steady job in something like, like bookkeeping or something like that, where it's a very steady job. You can get to a stable place in your career pretty quickly. You may not love it, but you know exactly what your hours will be, and you have a plan for how in the evenings and the weekends you're going to continually work towards this goal. Or I think the third one that I've heard is, if you find something adjacent. So let's say I know without a doubt that I want to be an actor. Period. Not all the hyphens. Let's just say actor. Then what can I do to get myself onto sets, perhaps? Maybe starting as a PA on, bigger shows or whatever, just so I can be around it more often. Maybe I can find something else. Maybe I'll find that I like script supervising and I can work on that in addition to pursuing acting, but you're still gaining experience being on set, really, and making connections. And I think that's a pretty clever way to go about things as well. But, it's all of the three options have pros and major cons.
Well, and to that end, I think especially with this world, because it can be very technical, but there are aspects of it that cannot be broken away from being artistic. Is there any point at which you looked, because I think there's a lot of people I work with who or have worked with over the years that I've been on set with, or I've taken an actor in, and worked with an actor or something, and said afterwards, maybe to myself, maybe not to them specifically, but like, don't know that you should be pursuing this. Has there been points at which you felt, looking in the mirror, God, am I in the right position, career? Am I pursuing it the right way? You mentioned, at a certain point, you were glad that the pandemic kind of put classes away because it was like, maybe it's time to move away from classes. How do you deal with the self-doubt, with others' doubt?
I think it's a lot of, for separate reasons, I've spent a lot of time in therapy, dealing with different family things and stuff, and that has given me very powerful tools to understand myself very well. Not all the time, but I have a lot of strengths as far as introspection and understanding how I'm feeling about something and why I'm feeling that, or if I am blocked, understanding that I'm blocked. So I think understanding and knowing myself has been really important, and I know that I am somebody that slips into self-doubt a lot, so I pair that personally with, I call them logic stops. Let me tell you about my logic stops. I call them logic stops because when I inevitably go into a moment of spinning, of whatever it may be, maybe it's career related, maybe it's not, whatever this thing is, this thing that I constantly go back and doubt. So let's say it's, should I be pursuing acting after all? Let's say I keep coming back to that thought. Well, what can I do? What facts that are black and white facts that I know it's not an opinion, it's a fact, can I put on my list of logic stops? Is it an award that I've won? Is it different roles that I knew there were plenty of other talented people that I was up against and I was the one that ended up getting the role? Or is it, what are different, is there somebody really influential who's been like, wow, your work is fantastic, and I know that they know what they're talking about? What are these different moments and facts that I can put on my list of logic stops that the moment I start saying, Kelly, maybe we shouldn't be going after acting after all. Maybe I'm not good enough. Then I can go back to my list of facts, things that have happened that cannot be denied, and that can, stop me. But the only reason I ever would, allow myself to be in a position like this is if I have received plenty of feedback that I feel like, okay, I feel like I have enough talent to at least go after this, right? Yeah. But am I also getting that feedback from outside sources? Not everybody. There can be negative ones too, but
I
plenty
think
of positive.
That's really important, and something that I have been racking my brain about recently is just the fact that through this short film, there have been so many instances of me looking at myself and going, well, are you good enough to be a director, Chris? Because as much as you can try to blame the subject matter or the writing or the, it wasn't a huge budget. It was, some people look at, 39 grand and they're like, that's so much money. And other people are like, you made a short film for 39 grand and you made this film for, wow. And you're like, okay. But I've been racking my brain so much the entire time because, I don't know what is it, and I look at it this way. I said last night, I've always believed that shit rolls uphill, and that when you were in charge of a project or a business or a company or whatever the case is, ultimately the responsibility relies on you for whatever goes wrong in that company. You can say, oh, it was that employee, or oh, it was the DP didn't do his job, or oh, the writing was terrible. But at the end of the day, in my case, you're the director.
Yeah.
It's your job to make this into something that people can watch and people that the audience enjoys. And one of the things that we came back to after talking to my friend last night, which I think goes to your stops, right? Your factual stops, is when I brought the creator in, the guy who wrote it, to watch the rough cuts a few times, he's been very pleased.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything, that's the person who I was supposed to be pleasing.
Yeah.
And it's been the only thing really in this process and this project that has brought me back and made me feel grounded a little bit. Like, because I've had that thought of like, well, should you be pursuing directing? You did a really good job show creating the last couple projects you did. Maybe that's what you should be doing. I know you want to be a director, Chris, and you want to do these things, but if you can't make this simple short film palatable to a bunch of random people, what are you doing? And well, the feedback I got was it was exactly that. It was like, this sucks. And I'm like, oh God. But not from the guy who paid me to create it.
Right.
And if you want to balance that with, that's the person who, is metaphorically the ticket holder at the theater or something like that. That was the most important one. So I think I really like that you have that set of stops. Like, here's the facts I can turn back to. And I think for a lot of artists, it can be difficult to find those facts or those stops, especially early on. I mean, I think we probably both have a lot of that in our early days of like, you mentioned like, you go on set and you find out what you gravitate towards. I didn't know I was going to be a production designer. I found very, and like back in 2010, I was, and 2011, I was starting to like put sets together and use some of my old Boy Scout knowledge to like build things because I could.
Yeah.
Didn't mean I was all that great at it, but then I would actually watch someone else do something, or I'd see something on YouTube and try a technique, or I'd just experiment with something in that studio or that warehouse I had by the airport. And then people started to say, hey, can you make something for me? Hey, can you do this for me? And there were a few points I mentioned earlier, or maybe not, I don't know if it was to you, but I think it was to folks last night. It took me till I was in my early 30s before I felt confident saying directly that I was a producer. It was just, I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know if the industry accepted me, but I had done enough and I had enough successes that I went, I'm a producer.
Yeah.
And same thing with production design. There was a single set that comes to mind. It always comes to mind. It's the one that really I look back at and go, okay, I can do art. I'm an art director. I'm a production designer. And it was this war bunker set that I built for a Korean War film. And it's the one probably for several years, even sometimes today, that people will reference when they're like, oh yeah, he's a production designer, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That like put me, maybe not on the map for the Bay Area or anything like that, but within the circle that I run in, within the industry colleagues that I have, that has for years, even last year in 2023, I had a corporate company that once every 2 or 3 years calls me for something, and they were like, hey, you still doing production design?
Nice.
I need a set build. And I was like, all right, like
Yeah.
it's a great stop to have, to be like, no, I don't have to lose confidence in that ever
Right.
again.
Repeat clients. What better
Yeah.
logic stop is there than
Yeah.
something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's really great advice. I know we've been chatting for a while, and I don't want to make these things take 2 hours, but let's wrap it up with advice for other filmmakers. I know we've talked a lot about things that are specific to you, but in the last, I hadn't seen you in quite a few years. I think it was the last time we hung out was like 2015 or something like that. And it was really great to see you at the Short Film Festival, and really, really great to see what you've been doing. And that film is fantastic. Good Girls Get Fed. Make sure you watch that. Go check it out. Is it going to be available on like YouTube or Amazon or whatever for now?
Yeah, we're figuring out where its home is going to be. I think we just have a couple more months left for the festival circuit,
Cool.
and then it will land where it will land and be available.
Well, make sure you send, it'll probably be a month or two before I even put this out, because it's been
Sure.
like 2 months since the last one I did, and I still haven't edited it. But I'm like, 2025 is the year of getting things done, I
Nice.
swear to God. But yeah, advice for up and coming, and I always want to say young, I don't mean young. Advice for newer, greener filmmakers who are looking to figure themselves out.
Yeah. Like I said before, and I will say it again, definitely knowing that this is something that you need to be doing, because it's just too challenging and painful, and it won't be sustainable if it's not something that you love and you need to do, and you just have to pursue it. I would also say to think about things as far as the long game, whether that be the moment you're going to find success, whatever that looks like, but just planning for things in the long term, considering them in the long term. If you get surprised and you hit a jackpot situation and things pop up faster than they typically do, great. But like, for context, nobody talks to actors about the fact that it takes prepare for about like 8 to 10 years of moving into a major market.
Yeah.
I was auditioning for things in LA when I lived up here.
Yeah.
And I would fly down there, I would drive down there for auditions, and I'd come back, oh, my timer started, is what I thought. But it's not true.
Yeah.
So it's once you're in a major market, then it's 8 to 10 years for a lot of people. I know plenty of folks. A friend of mine, he just booked his first co-star, and it's been 15 years for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say 10 is like an average. I wouldn't say it's,
But be prepared for the long game.
For sure.
Yeah.
And let that be okay.
Yeah.
Let auditioning, like going to classes if it's acting, or if it's, working on other people's sets if you're a director, but you're helping out in other ways and learning about, different people's directing styles, or just being on set more. Just understand that it's something you want to find a way to enjoy all of it, and not just wait to get to the end for you to be able to find any sense of contentment or whatever. I mean, we're going after a pretty dream situation in whatever capacity that you're working on film, and whatever your role is. You're trying to make movies and tell stories as a job. Like, that's magic. We get to dream bigger than most people on Earth ever will, on a regular basis. So that's amazing. And, it's hard, but it's worth it. But the long game is what I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to put this one out there and hopefully do more of these, and I'm really excited to see more of your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cut.
This has been another episode of the Shortcut Podcast. If you're listening early enough, you can find Kelly's film, Good Girls Get Fed, playing on the festival circuit. And if it's been a while since you tuned in, you may instead be looking for the feature-length film she is producing based on this proof of concept. I'd like to thank our friends at the San Jose International Short Film Festival for providing us with the opportunity to bring you this episode. And I'd like to thank you, the audience, for tuning in. My name is Christopher Lee Denise. You can find me on Instagram and other social media as @LocalCinematic, on YouTube as The Local Cinematic, and in real life, wherever great films are being screened. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.